40 derivatives worked from beginning to end, with the rule named on every single one of them. Differentiation is the half of calculus that always finishes because there really is a procedure, and if you follow it, you'll get an answer every time. The only decision you have to make is which rule is on the outside, and everything else follows from that one choice. So here is the whole map. 7 rules cover everything in this run, and each one answers to a structure you can see in the function itself. The chain rule is much the biggest block, with 11 of the 40, because one function sitting inside another is the commonest shape there is. The panel on the left is the same on every item. The upper curve is the function, the straight line riding along, it is the tangent at the moving point, and the lower curve is the slope of that tangent plotted as the point travels. The derivative is drawn by the thing it measures. The strip along the bottom fills in 1 square for each derivative as we work it, grouped by rule, so by the end you will have watched a map of the whole subject assemble itself out of 40 worked examples. Items 1 to 10. The power rule first, since it is the one rule you will use inside every other rule, and then the product rule, which is what you reach for the moment two things are multiplied together. Number 1, the power rule. Bring the exponent down in front and reduce it by 1, which works because expanding x plus h to the 7th gives 7 copies of x to the 6 times h. Number 2, differentiation is linear, so each term is handled separately and the constant disappears, because a constant has no slope anywhere on its graph. Number 3, a root is a fractional power. 1/2 minus 1 is minus 1/2. So the derivative grows without bound near 0, which matches how steeply the root curve leaves the origin. Number 4, write it as x to the minus 1, and then the power rule applies unchanged. The derivative comes out negative everywhere, which is what you would expect because this curve only ever falls as x increases. Number 5, 2/3 minus 1 is minus 1/3. So the derivative involves a cube root in the denominator, and the tangent becomes vertical as x approaches 0. Number 6, 2 power rules and a sum. The 2 pieces pull in opposite directions, so somewhere between them, the total slope passes through a minimum. Number 7, the product rule. Differentiate the first and keep the second, then keep the first and differentiate the second, because both factors are changing at once. Number 8, same pattern. The growing x squared amplifies the oscillation, so the derivative has both a growing term and a swinging one, and you can see both in the curve. Number 9, the x times 1 over x collapses to 1, so the whole derivative is just the logarithm plus 1, and it crosses 0 where the logarithm equals minus 1. Number 10, you may expand first and use the power rule, or use the product rule directly. Both routes must agree, since they describe the same function, so checking that they do is a fast way to catch an arithmetic slip. Items 11 to 20. The quotient rule takes over, and then the chain rule arrives, which is the single most important rule in the whole subject, because almost every function you meet is one function sitting inside another. Number 11. The exponential factor never vanishes. So every 0 of this derivative comes from cosine equaling sine, which happens at 45 degrees and every half turn after it. Number 12, the quotient rule says bottom times the derivative of the top, minus top times the derivative of the bottom, all over the bottom squared. Here the numerator tidies to 1, because the two x terms cancel exactly. Number 13, the famous damped ripple. The derivative is 0 wherever the tangent of x equals x itself, which is why its peaks are not quite at the peaks of sine. Number 14, the function flattens towards 1 as x grows, so the derivative must die away, and the x squared plus 1 squared in the denominator is what makes it die away quickly. Number 15, tangent is sine over cosine, so the quotient rule gives cosine squared plus sine squared over cosine squared. The top is 1. Because of the Pythagorean identity, and 1 over cosine squared is secant squared. Number 16, the numerator factor x minus 1 tells you the only turning point sits at x equals 1, since that is where the derivative vanishes. Below it the falling 1 over x wins, and above it the exponential does. Number 17, the chain rule. differentiate the outside, and multiply by the derivative of the inside. So squeezing the wave 3 times tighter makes it 3 times steeper. Number 18. The outside derivative reproduces itself, and the inside contributes to x, which is why this function grows far faster than an ordinary exponential. Number 19. 1 over the inside times the derivative of the inside. That pattern is worth naming because it turns up constantly. The derivative of a logarithm is the derivative of the inside divided by the inside. Number 20. This is the hyperbola, and its slope tends to plus or minus 1 at the extremes because far from the origin the curve is almost a pair of straight lines. Items 21 to 30. More chains, then the inverse functions, and then the cases where you have to take logarithms before you can differentiate at all because the variable turns up in the exponent. Number 21, 5 times the bracket to the 4th, then times the 2 from inside, giving 10. Expanding first would work and would take about 10 times as long. Number 22, the inside grows like a cube, so the oscillations bunch up as x increases, and the 3x squared out front is precisely that bunching measured. Number 23, 2 sine x cosine x, which the double angle identity rewrites as sine of 2x. So squaring a wave doubles its frequency, and the derivative shows it plainly. Number 24, the exponential factor is always positive, so this derivative changes sine exactly where cosine does, and the function turns at the peaks and troughs of the sine inside it. Number 25, arctangent flattens out towards a horizontal asymptote, so its derivative has to fall away to 0, and 1 over 1 plus x squared is that fall. Number 26, arcsine becomes vertical at both ends of its domain, and the square root in the denominator running to 0 is the algebra saying exactly that, since dividing by something tiny makes the slope enormous. Number 27, a logarithm of a logarithm. Apply the chain rule once, and the result decays even faster than 1 over x, which is why this function crawls. Number 28, neither the power rule nor the exponential rule applies, because x appears in both places. Take logarithms first, differentiate, then multiply back by the function. Number 29, write 2 to the x as e to the x times the logarithm of 2. The chain rule then leaves that logarithm behind, which is why e is the only base with no leftover constant. Number 30, arccosine is arcsine turned upside down, so its derivative is the same size with the opposite sign, and the two derivatives add to 0 everywhere. Items 31 to 40. The last block puts the rules inside each other, which is the only real difference between a drill and an examination question, since the hard part is deciding which rule is on the outside. Number 31, secant is 1 over cosine, so the quotient rule gives sine over cosine squared, and splitting that into 2 factors is what produces secant times tangent. Number 32, the mirror image of tangent. Its derivative is negative everywhere it is defined, because cotangent only ever falls between one vertical asymptote and the next. Number 33, the product rule gives cosine squared minus sine squared, which the double angle identity turns into cosine of 2x, so the answer is neater than working. Number 34, secant squared to the inside times the 2 from the inside. Doubling the argument has the spacing of the asymptotes, so the curve has to be twice as steep between them. Number 35, factoring the derivative as x times 2 minus x shows the turning points immediately, at 0 and at 2, because a product is 0 exactly when one of its factors is. Number 36, 1 over secant, times the derivative of secant, so the secants cancel and tangent is left. This is integral number 11 from the other run, read in the opposite direction. Number 37, the quotient rule leaves cosine plus cosine squared plus sine squared on top, which the Pythagorean identity reduces to 1 plus cosine. So one factor below cancels, and the answer is far simpler than the working. Number 38, product rule. Then put both terms over 2 root x. The derivative is negative near 0 and positive later, so the curve dips before it climbs. Number 39, the bell curve. Its derivative is the same bell multiplied by minus 2x, so the steepest points sit either side of the peak rather than at it. Number 40, 3 halves of the bracket to the 1/2 times 2x from inside. The 2 and the 3 halves multiply to 3, which is why the answer is so much tidier than the question. 40 derivatives, and every one of them came out of the same 7 rules. The finished map is lopsided, and it is lopsided for a reason. The chain rule took 11 of the 40, far more than any other rule, because one function sitting inside another is simply the commonest shape a function has. If you're going to be fluent at one rule, that is the one. There's also a genuine algorithm here, which is what makes differentiation different from integration. Look at the expression and ask which operation is on the outside, because that operation names the rule. Peel that layer off, and then ask the same question again about whatever is left, and keep going until nothing is left but the short list of standard derivatives. The limit worth stating is that none of this makes you fast. Speed on these comes from having seen the shapes often enough to recognize them without thinking, and recognition is built by doing problems rather than by watching them. So cover the answers and run the 40 again.